Hello, my friend, and welcome to the 434th episode of the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Before we get into today's guest, let me remind you of my friends over at Sweet Fish Media. They have produced a podcast called The B2B Sales Show, and they had little old me on episode number 67. Go check those guys out if you're looking for another podcast around sales and business. I think you will like it. I know you will like today's guest. I love talking to Southern folk. Just have a little common sense about them, you know. Nigel wrote the book Revenue Harvest, a sales leader's almanac for planning the perfect year. And we get into some cool things like why time in dilutes awareness of. That was a writer downer. I'm giving you that right in the very beginning. Time in dilutes awareness of. We talk about why you have to produce. We talk about Nick Saban, Bill Belichick, the team versus the individual, how to really prepare, and what your full-time job as a sales manager really is. And I've talked about this many times before. I've blogged about it, created content around it. You got to get that squared away, okay? We talk about how to find your best salespeople, whether to go inside or outside the organization. So a lot of pertinent, relevant information. So you are in for a treat. I'm also polishing off the vault. Make sure you check that out. It's a new program, putting all of my digital content in one place. You can access it for one flat fee. It's brand new. The price will go up as I add more stuff to it, but during this inaugural kickoff, go avail yourself of that. And then you can ask questions of me in the free group, theimplementors.com. All right. But the vault is at thesaleswhisper.com/vault. Go check it out. Now let's bring on our guest. Nigel Green, all the way from Tennessee, man, author of this new book. It's almost out, right? The Revenue Harvest, a sales leader's almanac for planning the perfect year. Welcome to Sales Podcast, man. How the heck are you?
Wes, I'm great. Thanks for having me.
So what's up, man? Are you some kind of farm boy? Are we going to get all Southern up on this here podcast today?
Well, we may not get all Southern a little bit because I'm from the South, but we're definitely going to talk about two of the oldest professions, farming and selling.
Gotcha. Very nice. So is that a big leap, man? Farming is, although, you know, I do hear like realtors, they always say you got to have a territory that you farm. But I was more of a hunter-killer kind of type. So do I have to farm, or can I just go like those vultures hanging out on the line? They're like, oh, screw this. Let's go down and kill something, man. You know?
Well, you could take whatever analogy you want, but you got to produce something. And that's why we took this angle with the book.
Nice.
Is that if you don't produce, you won't make it in this business. And there are farmers that can tell you that if you don't produce a crop, you won't make it. It doesn't matter if you spent the time to plant seeds. If you did it at the wrong time of the year, there won't be anything to harvest and you won't have a farm. You'll be looking for something else to do. And a lot of sales reps spend a lot of time looking for clever tactics and quick fixes, but they don't understand that this business is about longevity, and it takes consistency over time in order to have some longevity in this career.
So how does one of these hunter-gatherers develop patience? Because I know when I was 30, man, I didn't have a whole lot of patience. And at 50, I don't have much more either, but I do have a little more.
Yeah.
So when do you accelerate, right? When do you like kind of let things kind of percolate?
Well, you know, nature has her own pace, and I think that that's a lot like the customers are. You can be too much too fast, and you won't get the result that you're looking for. So I think what this book is really about, Wes, and it's for sales leaders. So there's, if you're in a production role, if you carry a quota, you'll get something out of it. But if you manage a team or you're a CEO or investor, what this book's going to tell you is it's going to teach you how to lead your sales leader. It's going to teach you how to have conversations with her about how good is she at forecasting? How good is she at coaching? How good is she at taking the plan that you've communicated to your board and translating that to the reps that are going to be representing your company to the marketplace? So it's really a book about making sure that you get what you expect at the end of the year.
Yeah. Well, and I see that all the time. And I was a victim of this with having poor sales leadership. Most sales managers are plucked from the sales team. They were a top performer, and now they go from lone wolf, right? Aggressive, impatient, get it done, slash and burn, bull in the china shop, and now they got to lead people, and they're not ready. So is this helping to kind of bridge that gap?
It does. Just because you were good at selling doesn't mean you're going to be a good sales leader, but you can be. The behaviors that are required of a good sales leader are vastly different from that of a sales rep. Sales reps are known for uh, leaving a wake of destruction behind them, and sales managers have to understand how to clean that up, because if the product team, if the customer success team, if they don't support you, you won't have you won't hit your number for the year. And if you've got reps that run and leave everything for everybody else to deal with, and you don't teach the team how to be good team players with product and customer success and operations and the folks that keep your customers happy, it won't translate to a good selling year. So what good sales leaders do is they know how to manage the balance between product, customer, and people. And oftentimes, the hunters and the go-getter done types that were plucked from the ranks that you're talking about, they think that spending time with your salespeople is doing it for them. So they cut them off in the meeting. They show up to ride with the rep just to close for them, versus giving them space to grow and learn, and then giving feedback, creating coaching sessions after the meeting with the customer to help them get better at their craft.
Right. So how does a sales manager, right? Yeah, this new person, are they usually in over their heads, right? And they start reaching out, looking for ways, right? Because a lot of times, I mean, you got to set your ego aside to a degree, right? As a sales leader, and realize this is a new role. You went from being a top performer, kind of like being like, you were all-star, you were all-state in high school. Right now you're in college, and everybody you're playing against was also all-state, but you were all-state in Connecticut, right? Playing against the guy that was all-state in Texas. Little bit different. So there's a little bit of humble pie, when they start to reach out for tools like this, or is it just savvy?
I think it's savviness and self-awareness. If you stick with that example of being all state at the high school level, you may not be in over your head when you go to the college level, but you certainly can learn from those around you, and even those that may not play your position, but have been on the team or been in the collegiate ranks long enough. And the healthy and the self-aware sales leaders understand that, yes, you got there because you're good at your craft. You know the competitive landscape, you know how to sell your product, and you might actually be a good sales leader. But this next season of the business is going to require you to do something differently. Maybe the business just acquired another company, and you've got to integrate a sales team, and you've never done that before. Or there's a new offering that you need to take to the market this year that is completely outside of the scope of what your sales team sells, and you need to create a specialty sales team. So it's the self-aware sales leader that understands that coaching is your best friend, that an extra set of eyes or ears or other resources is really helpful. Our job as the leader is to make sure we provide the best ideas to our team. It doesn't necessarily mean we have to generate those ideas.
So, you know, when when you've got this new team, how much, like using the coaching analogy, right? Nick Saban doesn't show up at Alabama and say, "Okay, I'll just maintain as we were, and it's okay. We'll just keep doing what we were doing." He shows up and says, "Hey, there's a new sheriff in town. You're going to do things my way or hit the highway." Right? So as a new sales manager, you're stepping in, and a lot of times, like they're plucked from within, right? So they've been part of the crew, you know, goofing off, whatever, bagging on management, knocking a few back at the sales meetings, maybe doing things their way, maybe even being proud and boisterous about how they do things their own way. And they had success. And now they're in charge. Do they immediately hey, new sheriff in town, my way or the highway? Or do they give a little leeway, and how much leeway to the individuals to kind of do things their way, right? I mean, how standardized do they need to be?
Well, so the second principle of this book is called positioning, and it's right after the planning principle. The first thing that we teach sales leaders how to do is really understand how to effectively plan the selling year. Positioning the plan is really what Nick Saban does better than he and Bill Belichick do this better than anyone else in football. The players that come there understand it's a privilege to be there. Yes, they're good. Yes, they're the best at their craft, but this is also one of the best, cultivating environments for a football player. If you are a sales leader, you have a responsibility for recruiting talent to your team that want to be there because they believe in the offering, that it does something for the customers that's unique and valuable. If you've got a team of reps that are there because they are only infatuated with the compensation plan, or there's not this buy-in, this chemistry, this reason to go and do this plan that's bigger than my self-interest and motivations, you won't last long. Really good plans, really good products, poorly positioned by a leader that can't get the team to see something bigger than what's in it for this commission check for this quarter, they won't last. Right. Nick Saban and Bill Belichick understand that, yes, you're good, but we're here to do something special. And right. The sales leaders that can build a culture around doing something special typically get the team to perform better than a team of a really, really talented players. You can look at the NFL and find teams that are just loaded with talent, but they never quite get it figured out because they don't get everybody on the same page.
Right. But when they put their foot down, right, or they start positioning this, it's going to ruffle a few feathers. Do you just let them go? Right? Like Jalen Hurts, right? He transferred away from Alabama. He's like, new young quarterback came in, took his spot. And, they still did well, obviously. Yeah. Do you try to hold on to those or say, if it's not a fit, good luck at your next venture?
Yes, you try to hold on to them, but you also are okay with letting them go. One thing about good reps and good customers is they all leave. You stay in it long enough, you're going to have to replace your best customer. You lead teams long enough, you're going to have to replace your best rep. And the spirit of a leader is that you want what's best for your people, even if it means they need to go be successful somewhere else. And oftentimes the outcome is for you to be successful, it's no longer going to be on this team. We've exhausted all resources to get the most out of you, and you just got to be okay with the outcome of parting ways. Mm-hmm. Because what's more important is the collective, the team, the business, the customers, and you have to be unwavering on your commitment to those outcomes. And sometimes individual people stand in the way of achieving the big collective outcomes, and you just got to make those tough decisions.
Right. Well, dirty little secret though that some new sales managers may not understand. Nick Saban is great because he recruits. He's a master at recruiting. Few organizations though that I've seen are very good at recruiting. So they're scared that their top person is going to leave. And the reality is usually it is the top person that leaves, right? They get hired away, either better offer, or, hey, they're going to move from offensive coordinator to head coach, and Nick Saban loses a crap ton of coaches every year and still produces. So do you get into the recruiting side of things?
Well, it's almost like you're setting me up because we talked about the plan principle, then the second principle of positioning, and the third is prepare. And a big part of preparation for the sales leader is recruiting. And we spend a lot of time in the book talking about recruiting, and it's a full-time job. for Nick Saban, and it's a full-time job for a sales leader. One of the things that you'll see in the very beginning of this book is good planning means not that you have contingencies for if adversity hits you during the selling year, but it's knowing that adversity will strike, and she always strikes at the most inopportune times. Coaches leave, players leave. It's never a good time for your top rep to leave. It's for whatever the circumstances, whether it's maternity leave, take a competitive offering. No one anticipates that it's going to happen. But the good sales leader has a bench of talent and understands that the best people are recruited. It's too little too late when you lose a rep and you go post a job. Let me let you in on another little secret. You know this. The best sales reps aren't looking for jobs. They're busy earning commissions, maxing out their compensation plan, and they're not looking for your job posting on these job boards. So it's up to the good sales leader to make it a part of their weekly cadence to go talk to talent. And just like Nick Saban spends a lot of his weeknights in the homes of young men trying to convince them to come to Alabama, you got to do a lot of that. Even when you go on the road and you may spend an entire day with a rep, that night you need to have time set aside to interview people because adversity's coming and she's not your friend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, watching this, I have this love-hate relationship with Nick Saban because he restored my LSU Tigers to glory and then left. But watching these guys, watching Coach O, at LSU, they're in the middle of these, CFB playoffs, and you see them like fly to Atlanta, whatever, get ready for a game, and they're coordinating recruiting visits, during these playoffs, right? And it's like, holy smokes. They're talking to kids. He'll fly off real quick, go see somebody, he'll bring them to the game. I mean, in the middle of going after the championship, they know that that's key, right? They've got to be doing that. And it's true, man. I just see so few doing it, but man, if you can, but should they look for top talent, like experienced salespeople, or is it better to bring in somebody with very little experience and groom them and grow them in your own system?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of both. I think that ultimately, as the sales leader, you're the curator of the culture. You're the keeper of the culture that you want to create for your team. And the truth about culture is time in dilutes awareness of. So the longer that you've been a part of culture, the less likely you are to understand how it really is. So it's really helpful for a leader ever so often to inject new elements to the culture, to go outside of the organization and bring in fresh values and perspectives that can enhance the culture. These new additions to the team, when they're top players, particularly, and they have some experience, they're able to come in and tell you very quickly how your culture is not what you say it is. And so if a leader can foster an environment of trust and transparency, bringing in top talent from other companies can also be very helpful. Now, here's where it's really valuable for the green talent, those with little experience. They coach everyone else up. The right players and the right culture allow you to go get new people that meet the chemistry and meet the cultural minimums of the team. They don't have the competency, they don't have the experience, but they have all the hustle and grit that you need. The right teammates will take them under the wing and they will show the rookies how to do it.
Yeah, you can't just trust them, though. I mean, I've been the recipient, showing up somewhere new and some old salty dog, I go on the road with them, and man, they're terrible. So, I mean, we got to be careful who we allow to coach them up, huh?
Well, it's maybe they're terrible. I think that's probably a separate conversation because I would want to eradicate that. That's toxic, and you don't want that in your culture. But it is true, Wes, that the day of a new sales rep looks very different from the day of a senior old salty dog that's got it down, 20-year vet. And shadowing that rep's probably not going to be very valuable to a new rep, because the activities that she needs to do every day are not going to be the same that you might with 10, 15 years of experience. So that's where I think having a really defined playbook is very helpful. And, we're doing Nick Saban a lot of favors here talking about him, but he's one of the more process oriented people. And we talk about this in the book, that if you don't have a defined playbook for your team, who we want to hire, what's the personality profile, what is the first day, the first week, the first 6 weeks, the first 6 months look like, if that's not structured, you're really setting everyone up new, whether they're experienced or not, to fail, because they're not going to do it your way. Bill Belichick says, do your job. Just do your job. And everyone knows what their job is because it's been spelled out crystal clear. And it's our job as a sales leader and I'm literally talking about a physical playbook, to have it written down, standard operating procedures before you show up on this team, to put it on their desk. And I mean, physically ship it to them before they start and say, this is how we do it here. And it's your job to train yourself on our way.
But a lot of times companies don't have that, right? I mean, a lot of times, like, great salespeople are just getting after it. A lot of natural ability, the hustle, the grind. And I've just seen it over and over again. And in a way, I'm kind of thankful, because it gives me a job, right? To be that outsider coming in and giving them that fresh perspective, because that kind of planning, it's hard, right? It's like, I forget who it was. I think it was Sam Snead, Ben Hogan, like those kind of guys, like way back in the day in golf. And somebody asked, do you inhale or exhale on your putting stroke, right? And he's like, I don't know. So then he just spent all this time analyzing, trying to figure it out, and totally messed up his game for a while, because he just was such a natural. He just did it,
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, why, like, so few great players become great coaches, right? In almost any sport, it's those that had to grind that become the great coaches, because they had to analyze so much, versus just doing things naturally. So is that where you and I come in? Is that where the book comes in, to help them create that plan? Because I haven't seen it be all that natural for most great salespeople.
It's not natural, for a couple of reasons. Two prevailing reasons why it's not natural. Most sales leaders, to your earlier point, are plucked out of a top performing role. And there's been a lot of research to show that that's actually not the behavioral characteristics of a good sales leader. So that's the first thing. They are psychologically and behaviorally incompatible with the role of a sales leader. The second factor, which is why you and I have jobs, the role of frontline sales manager up through executive sales leader. Bain and Company did a research on this. Of all the dollars that a B2B company invests in sales and training, those roles receive the least amount of consulting and coaching dollars invested in them. The failed assumption of executives is that, well, Nigel was a great sales rep, so he ought to know how to lead the sales team.
Mm-hmm.
And so oftentimes I have to do a lot of undoing and unwinding some bad thinking with the executive team that, well, we hired this girl who said she knew how to lead a sales team. She ought to know how to do it, or we're just going to go find someone else. I said, well, you hired 100 sales reps that told you they knew how to sell, but yet you want me to work with them too. So once we can undo that, we realize that if you don't have to go far west to find that the elite have a coach. The best golfers have a swing coach, they have a dietitian, they have weight training coach, they have a psychology coach, and the best executives have coaches too. So why wouldn't you want the leader of your sales team, who represents all your revenue, to have a coach?
Mm-hmm.
But yet so many don't.
Right. I know. It boggles my mind, but oh well. When should a company, hire from within versus bringing someone from the outside in to lead a team?
So, well, that's a very good question. And I think more often than not, companies go to bring in someone from the outside too soon. A
Uh,
lot of times I hear, well, we need a sales leader, and they go hire Miss Dashboard, someone that is used to sitting in the office running Salesforce reports because they've got this big VP title, but they don't really understand where the stage at which your company is in. And then you've got the other end of the spectrum where they wait too late. But I think most of the time they go out and hire too soon when they really, what they need is just a little bit of coaching and management, and the CEO needs to appoint someone on the team to do it and let it go. Um, but there's there are always going to be exclusions to that rule where you need to go out and you need to find someone that has the pedigree and seasoned experience of leading teams.
so are you saying they go outside the organization too soon? So are you saying they should just coach up their existing sales management just to see if they can get them better? Yeah, you're saying that in general, that's a better path than trying to look outside too soon.
I think for a lot of the companies that I work with, and I'll state some clarifying or some contextualizing comments, that most of the companies that I work with are mid-market. They've got proof of concept. They have a sales team in place, and they have a set of customers that have done business with them year over year. There is talent on that team that can be trained to be a sales leader faster than going out to the market and hiring someone that doesn't understand the nuances of your space, the nuances of your customer. You will spend a lot of money and you won't see a lot of results quickly. And I say that with the caveat that, one of my biggest successes in the marketplace came when I didn't work in an industry and was plucked out to come lead a sales team that I had no experience doing whatsoever. So it can be done. But 15 years later, I'll tell you that I see more success when you can find the right person that meets the profile of a sales leader. And it's not your top performer. It's usually someone that performs, hits plan or is right below plan year in and year out for 4 or 5 years that turns out to be a really good sales leader. That rep that's just a real quota buster is not the one you want in that role, because they ask for forgiveness, not permission, and they leave a lot of messes behind them.
And a lot of times, does that top producer even want that job?
Oftentimes, no. It comes with a cut in pay. It comes with less autonomy. What they want is respect and recognition, so they take the job because they're ready for the CEO to give them a that a boy. Then they realize very quickly it's a mistake, and they can't play golf on Friday. And they got emails from the CEO on Sunday night saying, "What's the forecast for the week?" And then there's a rift in the relationship, and they probably should have just stayed a producer and made $250,000 a year and not have everybody busting their chops on Sunday.
So, but that could be kind of that's something to navigate, right? I have to pull that top performer in and say, be honest with me, right? You don't want this sales management job, like, tell me the truth, right? Because I don't want your feelings hurt, and I want you to make more money, and I hope you don't mind that I'm bringing the second or third guy and making them the manager, right? I mean, should you run it by them just to smooth things over,
You
make
should.
sure
So
everybody's on the same page?
one of the things I talk about in the book is this notion of a sales council. And what this does is it allows the leader to select people regardless of title or position in the org chart to sit at the decision-making table and help her make the most informed decision. And it's a great place for a top performer to have access to the executive team and say, you know what, I'm not your manager, but I really know what a good manager should do in this role. And I know what our customers want, maybe oftentimes better than the manager. So you should listen to me, especially when I need to be heard. And so good sales leaders will do that. They'll create this council, and it may not even have a manager, a frontline manager. It may skip down the chain 2 levels and just get the right people in the room to help them make the most informed decision, so they don't do what we've all done, which is make a really dumb management decision that's never going to fly.
Yeah. Yep.
hire the wrong person, change the comp plan, or do all these bonehead decisions that if we just talked to the people, we could have found the right decision pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yep. We tend to overcomplicate things, huh?
We do. And it's our ego that gets in the way. We want everyone to know that we have it all figured out.
The older I get, the more I realize
You
I
know,
don't.
one of my favorite authors is Ryan Holiday, and he talks about in his book "Ego is the Enemy" that he
Mhm.
says, as my island of knowledge increases, so does my ocean of ignorance.
Yeah. Amen. Well, man, where do we send people to learn more about you and get this book?
You go to therevenueharvest.com. So you can get this book anywhere books are sold, but if you go to therevenueharvest.com, you will always get it cheaper than where you can get it at Amazon or iTunes. So do yourself a favor and go get it there. I sign every copy. So if you go buy it, it's hardcover and paperback. If you go buy it from therevenueharvest.com, I'll sign it, send you a note. Yeah.
Cool. So does that include Buc-ee's? Can I get one at Buc-ee's? Do you have Buc-ee's in Nashville?
I don't think you can get it at Buc-ee's, and I don't think we have it
Well, I
in
mean, they sell
Nashville.
comic books at Buc-ee's. So, and you saying where books are sold, and don't tell me you don't call comic books books because it has books in the name.
That's for a separate conversation there, Wes. I don't know what to tell you there.
Are you saying bless your heart? Is that what you just said, basically, in different words?
You're not as slow as you say you are.
Man, it's wisdom. It's wisdom with age, right? I'm
Yeah,
gonna have this one little glimpse of like being really smart, and then I'm gonna peak, and then that's it. I'm going right back down. So I'm gonna enjoy that moment if I'm getting to it.
you got it, man. Go for it.
Very cool. You ever get to Southern California?
Often, yes, I do. I love
Very
North County, North
nice.
San Diego County for those that are,
Yeah.
um, yeah.
Well, look me up, man. I'm looking for excuses to get to Nashville, so I'll let you know.
Yeah, come on.
All right, man. Thanks for coming on the show. Have a great day.
All right.
Regardless if you are a farmer or a hunter, you have to produce. Amen. How'd you like that? Time in dilutes awareness of. Love that. You can be too much too fast. Love that. So, and the whole concept on sales leadership. Sometimes you can promote from within. A lot of times, though, you probably need to pull someone in from outside. So there's a lot of wisdom here in this. I've said it many a times, a sales manager's number one job is to recruit. That's when we talk about Saban, Belichick. They're always building that bench strength. Nick Saban has horrendous turnover. He gets great talent. They go to the pros, but other schools steal his coaches because they know they've been well trained, and he still produces championships. So learn from that. I'm working with a client right now. One of the first things we're doing as part of the sales training I'm doing with her team is helping her implement a recruiting mindset. Includes a tab on the website, a specific process. I call it No More Sales Duds. It's a program I've had for years, and I typically include that with my coaching clients that have businesses. It's a simple but powerful tool to help you advertise, screen, interview, onboard, and retain top sales talent. But you've got to have a process for this. If you're interested in that, hit me up. I can give you some info on that. It's actually super affordable. I'll probably put it in the vault. I'm not sure. Maybe an add-on module because the vault is around selling and sales training. There's not as many people interested in sales management, but that could be. But check it out. I may put it in the vault. But that's thesaleswhisper.com/vault. As always, thanks for listening to this. Please subscribe so you get updates right away. Helps improve the listenership, helps me get sponsors and other things, grow sales so I can do more of this for free for you. All right, so be sure to subscribe, share this, invite others, say good things, and as always, go sell something.